Hi, welcome to the Creative Podcast. Glad you're here today. Hi, Gilli here at The Creative. Welcome to another episode of the Creative Entrepreneur Podcast. That's with an H-E-R. Yeah, that's right. Where I interview leading female executives, digital and creative disruptors, and entrepreneurs who share their insights, tactics, and strategies that made them successful passion leaders. The Creative Entrepreneur Podcast has guest speakers who share topics around creativity, entrepreneurship, or a little bit of both. And I'm focusing a lot about women in business lately. And that tends to touch on some really juicy discussions of strength, empowerment, life stories, and taking the path least traveled. Which brings me to today's episode. I am really excited to welcome Deb Dutta as my special guest today. Hi, Deb. How are you?
Hi, Gilli. Thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited to have this conversation with you.
I'm going to share a little bit about Deb from my point of view, as well as her amazing bio. I mean, there's more than words that can really share what Deb is about. But firstly, the facts are she is a founder. She is the founder and CEO of Criya, a tech startup backed by Y Combinator and top-tier VCs. And a platform I'm also a member of as a coach. Deb is absolutely passionate about empowering a vibrant community of senior professionals to launch their personal brands and share their valuable coaching and expertise through Criya, and has assembled an exceptional team of product, technology, and business leaders. I'm one of them. From renowned companies like Meta, Amazon, Oracle, PayPal, Google, there's a ton of folks in her circle. Her work has been recognized and featured on prestigious platforms such as Forbes, TechCrunch, New York Times, and Y Combinator. Additionally, she also contributes to Forbes and leads the Women in Product chapter, where she mentors aspiring professionals through their product careers. Personally, I have felt such a kindred spirit with you, Deb. I so resonate with you, not only building the startup, but building a community that I think is just amazing, that I was attracted to as soon as I found it. I'm so grateful that you brought me into your circle as I'm bringing you into my circle today. How do you feel about all of these accomplishments that you have done practically, single-handed?
Oh my goodness. Firstly, thank you so much. I feel like I'm hearing about someone else and myself. So thank you so much for the opportunity to even share. I don't think any of this actually happens alone. I think there are mentors, there are believers, sponsors along the way that have helped me through the various trajectories of my life, including yourself, Gilli. So even, it has taken a lot for me to get here, but it has also taken the support and belief in me from people like you. You met me a year ago or close to a year ago and took a chance when Criya was a vision, and we were toddlers when we were getting started, and today we've come so far. So I think I am extremely grateful for the people who have enabled me and helped us get here.
Yeah, I really feel like there's something to be said, and this is something that why I do the creative and why I do podcasts and why I coach and why I create communities. There's something about doing things together, like with people, because if we're trying to do things alone, I mean, it's a really lonely path, but there's a strength in numbers. How do you feel you've been able to attract these people around you? You really got a skill in doing that.
I think it has honestly come from a place of solving a real problem that I had, and that authenticity actually comes through. So a lot of what I am trying to do and have been actively doing at Criya is really trying to build a brand for myself. I'm a first generation immigrant female on a visa. I came here with a dream, and I wanted to build something for myself. That is true for any professional, whether, everybody's overcoming some hurdle of their own. And so just really sharing my journey and kind of also seeing if there are like-minded people who also have something to share, want to do something with their lives. And sometimes it's actually not so much about a platform, it's about just having a conversation with someone else who's been through it. I think that has helped tremendously, just being authentic and enabling those conversations. Another thing I think also has to do with once you've developed an initial network or like a credible network, I think your network defines your influence. Because your first level of influence is, very one-on-one, but after that, your network speaks for you. So it has been sort of this this network effect, honestly, that's brought in a lot more people and has helped us grow.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things, and you've just got this really great sort of organic social marketing strategy. And I'm not talking about like, doing videos on TikTok, everyone out there, although that's a different podcast altogether. This is more about the LinkedIn strategy of like business network. And Deb, I really see that you've like nailed it in that way. For example, and I'll just share my story as I came into Kriya. One of the things that we did when we joined Kriya, and I have a coaching platform there and a site, and people can come to my site, read about me, grab some free resources, and then book a session or something, and everyone who's in the platform can do the same. You instigate this really cool launch where not only will you post about the new folks that have joined Kriya, but then you give us the tools to post on LinkedIn to show that we've joined Kriya, which is helping us and it's helping Kriya, and it's like this networking effect, like it's like this viral effect, let's say, through LinkedIn, which we usually only see from a content and social point of view on like Instagram and Twitter and Facebook. But the way you've taught us how to do it on LinkedIn is really, really quite genius, because that's showing the community that helping each other, so to speak. Yeah.
Thank you. I can tell you a little bit about where the birth of that really came from. I mean, I started on the Kriya. So a lot of the philosophy behind what we're trying to do at Kriya is honed in on the principles of creator economy. And I feel like if you're on Instagram and TikTok, you can see people who have, young people who are in their early teens are gathering or amassing millions of viewers and followers. How are they doing that? It's not content alone. It's a strategy behind it. It's about, the method of posting, the way you're attracting, and actually garnering a community that continues to come to you for engagement. So I've done a lot of that on Instagram. So I have a big Instagram presence, and I did that when I was a little bit more unhinged. I was younger, but I do have a bigger I have a few 100,000 followers, 150,000 followers on Instagram.
Oh, just a few 100,000
and
Instagram, everybody.
I mean, what that has taught me is the power of actually leveraging a platform. And what I learned, honestly, once we started doing this on Kriya, was LinkedIn is actually relatively untapped. There are 800 million users on LinkedIn. 1% of them actually post content. And the crazy thing about it is LinkedIn is a professional platform. So everyone here is a professional. They can speak to their professional capabilities, unlike TikTok or Instagram, where it's likely more entertainment and something else. So it's just so crazy that people aren't capitalizing on LinkedIn. And I was like, how do I bring these learnings to everybody who's launching with me so everyone sees success? And that's really what it is.
Yeah, really, it's amazing. And I think that there must be some kind of fear for that, because LinkedIn used to be like a job seeking platform where, whatever you put there, your profile, your resume, like that's what you do, right? And so if you start posting, I think this actually happened to me. This was one of my like fears before I started really posting on LinkedIn. I was like, well, what if I post like the creative on there and I'm like the SVP of Paramount, which was true. I was like, is that a conflict of interest? And then I started realizing that it's about a branding story and how you really want to be seen, and all of it builds you to become, your best self. So whether you are the SVP of Paramount, which I was, whether you are a blogger, still haven't brought in my music side to LinkedIn yet. I'm keeping them separate, but like there's the narrative, like what is that brand narrative that you want to talk about, and so I think it's really crucial that people get really clear on that branding. And through Kriya, I've noticed it's helped me align my coaching strategy and how I want to reach my audiences, which are many entrepreneurs that are sitting there on LinkedIn going, I need support or whatever, I need resources or I need help. But I'd like to pivot a little bit to women in the workplace and back to you a little bit on your story. One of the other reasons why I felt really a kindred to you is, seemingly built your startup yourself, your career, but you were an immigrant. You came to America, and myself too. I came to LA nearly 25 years ago from Australia with, barely a work visa, to be honest, and 2 bags packed, ready for a big dream, and just a dream. Like, it was just me. I had no family, no friends, no nothing. I just had this dream of coming to Los Angeles. I'd love to hear about your story a little bit and I'm sure our listeners would have, like, what brought you here, and then what were some of the obstacles and hurdles that you overcame to do what you do?
Yeah, thank you for asking. It's definitely something that I feel every time I revisit it, I discover things that I want to share. So I grew up in India. I've always been a computer nerd, to be honest. I came to Carnegie Mellon, studied computer science, did a master's in computer science. And I mean, we were a middle-class family in India. So we took a big loan, put that all on the line, came here to the US. So my whole objective in life at that point was to get a job so I can pay off my loan and hopefully send money back home to stabilize the family. Really, that's really what it was. But America is really a land of dreams. I mean, you start your career, and just Carnegie Mellon in itself was just eye-opening. There's like people around me who have much bigger dreams than I did. They weren't just trying to get a degree. They were trying to build the next operating system or the next protocol, and like things that we use today were invented in some of the places that I've been fortunate to witness firsthand. So it came very early, but I never thought entrepreneurship was for me. There's no one in my family that's been an entrepreneur. We've always had jobs and so on. So it never felt like a reachable dream, to be honest. And then along the way, a lot of things happened. Like you said, I was on a work visa. I'm a woman. So, my whole career objective was get a job, get married, raise children.
Right.
And that's it. That's really what it was. And very early on, I just moved to California after I got my first job. I started at Microsoft as an engineer, and then eventually moved on to product management. Did several different things. I was part of a startup. It was acquired by Hitachi. Moved into product management, and then I was head of product at PayPal for several years. I used to lead our entire AI-driven customer success, agent experiences, and so on. So a lot of cool things. But along the way, I realized that my work visa actually does limit me not only from getting to the dream, but even actually living this dream. Because I remember there was a point in time where I was at Cisco. Cisco's a big company. There's a lot of humans at Cisco, and they do great things. But Cisco is not immune to layoffs, to things like that. And so much like every other company, they were going through layoffs. And I remember feeling so threatened because we've literally sacrificed, my parents have sacrificed so much for me to be here today. And we take pride in who we are. Like, I take pride in being a go-getter. I raise my hand. I'm always the one I'll be the first one to wake up and jump the meeting and so on, right? And Cisco goes through layoffs. I'm just a resource that is being let go, right? For many different reasons, but they don't have to take into account the fact that there is so much riding on this job, right? My life is riding on this job. And I think that's the basic difference between an immigrant's mentality versus someone who isn't.
Right.
This is not just a job. It's actually a big part of our life and what we can look forward to.
Yeah, that's right.
So I think all of those things really make you value the opportunities you get.
Yeah.
So at the time, I mean, obviously all of this going on, I remember when I met my husband, we were dating at the time. He's like, hey, like, he used to see me and he's like, she's always dressed up. We should get her on Instagram. Let's do some photography and let's learn photography and stuff. So that's actually how I got on Instagram and just started posting some like home decor, lifestyle content, things that just gave me an outlet. And it was the birth of this whole opportunity. I was like, I exist independently. I have people who care to listen to me. I have people that are joining my community. It was shocking that when you don't have the shackles of, what, just like you just let yourself be, the world is your oyster, right? So even though it wasn't a direct path to where I am today, Instagram and just living as a creator let me really see the breadth of where I could go. And long story short, I started to run experiments on what I could do independently outside of my day job. And that's where the first version of Kriya was born, where I amassed the community. I actually coded the first version of the platform, started inviting some folks to book time with me. This is pre-Calendly days. Like there was no Calendly at the time. Book time with me. And then we had like 100 users in 100 days and so on. So from there, things started to grow. And I was like, wow, like I know in my head, I knew where I want to go. Mm-hmm. I had to figure out how to get there. And there's a lot for an immigrant work visa, green card. That whole journey is quite complicated.
I know.
So yeah, it's terrifying.
It is. Any minute you could be sent home if you don't do it right, or the waiting period, or you're just every time you go to the airport, they put you in a little room just to make sure that you haven't had a DIY, DIY. Yeah, I mean, you feel like, and they call you aliens.
Literally, yeah. Like, just so you know, you are not in the, I mean, yes, it's just, it is hard. It is hard. Yeah.
But you really, I mean, look at you. And I know that it's tough, especially being an entrepreneur, a female entrepreneur, someone who's coming from the outside to do something in a different country that is seemingly filled with opportunity. And then you go through also economic changes. Like right now, we're going through an economic time, especially in the tech industry. There's been a lot of layoffs. There's been a lot of tightening the belt in the media industry. A lot of tightening of the belt in the entertainment business. There's strikes, writers' strikes, director strikes. I mean, there's a lot going on in the world. It's post-pandemic world, but it's like almost like Kriya has been, and you are rising from the ashes like Phoenix, creating this whole new model of interaction and work. It's like it's kind of unique. It's very unique. Like I haven't seen it before. I mean, I've seen it insofar as people say, oh, you can just, there's plenty of platforms you can do to do your work online and tools, but yours is more personal because it's you. It's you. It's really lovely. I'm giving her a lot of praise right now, as you can tell. But I guess what I would love to hear from you is now that you've set this platform up, and just you in general, you're a startup that has backing. What is it like as a woman, or even just as an entrepreneur, in the startup game? Like, I'd love to get some insights there. I mean, even some real practical stuff.
It is sometimes, in all honesty, there are days where I feel like I'm living outside of my body, and I'm just like looking at me, and I'm like I'm like a whack-a-mole, and I'm like, there's design, there's product, there's customer feedback, there's vision, there's investors, there's accounting, there's someone filed a dispute. Like it's just, I'm literally
sending in a bug via email saying, can you this page?
Right? It is physically exhausting.
Yeah.
But at the end of the week, I've gotten, I think the whole journey has been very rewarding in the sense that I started, I've never actually had to take anything from 0 to 1. I've always been in places where, I've joined at a place where there's already a brand, there's already customers, there's already product, and we are incrementally figuring out how do we make a 0.% difference in the world, right? Never had to figure out who is my first customer going to look like? What's a sales pitch going to look like? What should my website look like? What should my logo look like? All of it, right? So I'm the type of person who's constantly hungry. Like my husband actually was saying, he's like, I switched 4 jobs in I think 6 years, and he was like, I think you need a project that's going to keep you occupied for the rest of your life, because I'm always hungry. I'm always hungry. I'm always looking for what to do next. So this is exactly what I was built to do. And while there are days where when you're in the motion, you're sitting out and you're like, oh my God, I can't believe like there's so much going on in the day. I don't know another way.
How do you find? I gotta ask. How do you find the time? Like, well, how do you deal with your time management? You've got so much. You're a small CEO, meaning a CEO of a
small company.
Yeah. Like, how do you do it where you're not like hiring like multiple people? How do you keep it all together?
And I think that's what I've gotten better at. So when we started the company, was literally just being the one who's doing everything. And the reason I follow that process is I feel like before I can hire someone in such a small business, I need to know how to do the job. I don't need to know how to do it extremely well at scale, but I at least need to know what needs to be done.
Yeah.
If I bring in someone to do sales, how am I going to coach them? I need to be a role model for them to learn from. So that's kind of what I've done. A lot of it is I've done a little bit of the job. And now we've slowly brought in people who are smarter than me in different functions who can actually aid the growth of the company. So the first thing I did was initially I used to write the code. And the first thing I did was bring in a stellar engineering leader who's also my CTO. And he actually built the team out of it. But the first version of the product was literally me, right? And I knew that I cannot do beyond this. Like nobody should be running their business on my code. So I'm glad it's in good hands, right? Similarly, the next thing that came in was sales. So sales and some of the marketing. So I did a lot of the sales, which is when we met. Today, I don't do a lot of the sales anymore. We actually have people who run sales for us. And now we have someone who's doing, who we brought in to run operations and some of the marketing and branding and so on. It's been a journey. And I still know that I still feel as though there are certain parts of the business that I will take years before I can let go, such as this direct connection with customers, having direct feedback. It literally keeps me honest about
it's part of your talent too, because you actually understand the customer, right? So you're actually, which is like for me, you understand the coach, you understand the coach's need, or the speaker's need, and you kind of like want to understand their pain points so that you can improve your business. You're very responsive, meaning like you understand, like, and then you say, for example, if I say, how about, can you get this feature? This would be great. And you're like, yeah, we're working on it. And here's the next 10 features that are coming. And I was like, oh, I want that. It's like, I want to go to the grocery store. So I want to be able to do that. I want to connect multiple Google calendars. This is great.
It is that, right? And I would never be able to build a business if I weren't actually connected to who we are selling this to and who we're building it for. It also helps me with when I'm speaking with investors and board members and so on. I need to actually know where we're going, because everybody likes to hear the story of where this is going to go. So that's, I think, really important to me. So I think that's how I've become better with managing my time. Is the initial phase of any part of the business is time consuming, but I know that this is going to converge in a place where I can bring an expert and coach them, so I can start focusing like on the other parts of the business. So
if you were to like wave a magic wand and it's maybe like 5 years time, not too far away, but enough, to build out your business, like, what do you see? What for yourself? Where are you? What's going on with you? This is, by the way, this is one of the questions that I ask when I coach my clients.
Oh gosh, I'll be honest. I think it is hard to say. So I'll be honest. I'm being super candid. I almost never. I didn't start the business wanting for this to be some $1 billion something. It's not even part of why I wake up and do my work. As long as I am constantly doing something that is freaking awesome, I can stand behind it and be like, this is what I'm doing. This is the impact we're driving. And maybe when I started out, I was like, oh, I want to be able to impact 100 humans. Yes, so that vision has grown. I want to be able to impact 1 million humans. So I think that's what keeps me going. So 5 years from now versus 2 years from now, I think it's how many lives am I able to impact in a positive way. That's really where my satisfaction comes from.
By the way, you've got this cat coming. I don't know how many guests I've had where halfway through the podcast, this cat walks across, and now it's like part of the thing. Maybe we're planning like it's like a subliminal plan. What's the name of your cat?
Lily.
Lily. Hi, Lily. Beautiful.
She chooses her moments.
She does. Well, amazing. I really feel like there's like a secret room where these growing, scaling startups, founders and entrepreneurs get to know how to build their business and get investors and capital, and it's like how do you get into the door of those things? I'd love you to share. You don't have to share all your secrets, but share a little, maybe like the first time, if you're open to it, again, as a female entrepreneur looking for investors, because you mentioned it just before, like what were some of the things you did to attract interest in your idea?
So there's customers and there's investors. Where do you want me to focus?
Well, maybe let's start on the investor side, but I think, or you can start either way, but I love the idea of both, actually. Yeah.
Fundraising. I'll talk about fundraising because I think the advice is, I think it's a really interesting, to want to build a venture-backed business in itself is a decision that you have to make consciously. Because when I started building, like I said, I was never, and I still am not, in my mind, this is not, the reason I'm doing this is not because I wanted to have top investors or build a venture-backed business. That's not what it is. As I started building it and as I started having customers come in and then asking me questions, I realized the kind of product I'm envisioning and the level of talent I will need to hire to build this, I don't have the funding for it. And I also I didn't just need capital. I actually the reason I wanted to go and build a venture-backed business is I needed doors opened. I'm an immigrant. I don't have a dad who knows 15 others who'll just write checks for me and do introductions for me and get me on these, billboards and magazines. I needed people who will back me up.
Yeah. And
so even the ventures, the folks that I ended up taking investment from, and I said no to many, and I said yes to very few. Our cap table is very small because these investors are really mentors more than anything else. They've truly believed in a vision and in my hustle.
Yep. Yes.
Those folks really have helped. They've never been people who just force me into doing what they want me to do. I've really invested in the founder and the founder vision. So, but I know this today, a year after having raised capital, 2 years after I quit PayPal and so on. When I quit, I didn't even know what I was building. I didn't know if I was building a venture-backed business. I didn't know a single investor I didn't know anybody. I didn't know where I would start. And this is actually where I got scared. I started looking at the numbers. I think less than 2.9% of venture capital or funding goes to women-backed startups.
Oh, that's a terrible number.
It's a terrible number. And it's a number until you are actually in that 2.9% and you realize how the odds are against you. And if you already felt the imposter syndrome and you already felt nervous, this was just like, oh, let's 10x this, right? Like, let's make it harder. So I think it's.
But you overcame that. I mean, you're here today with a business. So like, you must have had something good for them to back you.
I think that's what it is. I think the important thing is that I don't think women get away easily. I've known a lot of founders, male founders who've raised capital on a 10-slide pitch deck. Not a single customer, not a single line of code written, and so on. Right. I don't envision ever having that kind of luck. And in a way, I don't care because my hustle will prove where I can go. But that's the difference, right? So when I went to raise capital, I had to learn how to go back and code. I had to do the marketing. I had to do the sales. I had to get my first 100 customers and show them the traction. And then we had folks like Y Combinator backing us. We had, so I think it's been like a stepping stone, right? So my first investors, Shakti, who came in, changed the way I look at life, right? Like, so each person who took a bet on me helped me build up that confidence and prepare me for the next milestone, and then where we are today. So no, I don't think any of this happens in a day, and I don't think any of us are prepared for it. But it does take a little bit of also being in front of getting in front of the right people so that they really believe in you.
It's amazing. I mean, it really taps into a couple of things that I believe in. One is, I believe that, really following your passion and bringing that passion, being a passion leader into what you do, which I see that with you. And then a lot of grit and hustle, which I see you do. And then it doesn't happen overnight, right? It really, you've got to be prepared to be in it for the long run. When I was an artist, like full time, and I've toured around the world, and we'll get to that in a sec, I realized that creativity was a journey, artistry was a lifelong journey, and that the rise to the top would take my entire life. Like how I am is not you can't be an overnight success. And it's the same in technology and in media and entertainment, all across, in any business and in any situation. Anyone who thinks it's just a fly-by-night success, so they can just take it and become successful is false. And if you do become successful, it doesn't mean it's going to last. And I really look at startups, even those who get the funding, can get going, and then they scale, and then they try and get a product to market, and they fail because they haven't put in the legwork to really get it right and take their time in doing that. And finally getting the people around you to support you in your growth, which you've definitely done that. It's really exciting. Have you, I'm a positive person, and you said that, like, I'm a positive person, right? But there are days where I go, God, like, how on earth am I, how am I going to figure this out? Or, have you had a day like that? And what did that feel like? Maybe give me an example of a bad day in Deb's world.
Oh my gosh. Yesterday, this morning, it's like, I'll tell you when I felt like at the bottom, like I literally felt like I didn't know how I'm going to do this. Is I quit PayPal. And I thought, I'm going to do this. I'm going to be an entrepreneur. I'm going to go build. And I kept focusing on the things that I can do and kept trying to avoid the things that I have no idea about, because, you don't know what you don't know. And I arrived, I think 2 months in, I arrived at a point where I knew that, like I was saying, I knew that this is what I want to build. These are all the things I need to get there. So I need to get in front of an investor. I need that investor to give me capital. I need that capital to be able to hire. So there were all these things that were hinged upon this one milestone, which is bringing in an investor or several who can help me do this. And it was like all the way there, and I'm here. And there was this point where I was like, I have no idea how to get from point A to point B. Because there's no book that teaches you with investors. This is the email. Like, there's nobody who teaches you how to do that. And if it were that simple a game, I think there would be a lot more people who would be doing it. And I remember that I was like, it was the perfect moment to quit. It's like, oh, I don't know how to figure this out, right? So, and I think once I overcame that, I keep going back and reminding myself. So there are days every now and then, like, of course, I have to raise my next round. There's a lot of things. But every time I'm at that moment, I go back and think about, hold on, you got here. Because you figure out, when you have a huge milestone, just don't think about the big milestone. Think about the next small little incremental milestone you can come up with. So step one was like, make a list of investors. Just do that. Just freaking do that. And I made a list and like, come up with an email. Okay, just do that. So I kept focusing on like the mini milestones. And then one day I was across.
Amazing.
So every time, even right now, as we're trying to like build up the vision for what Kriya 2.0 is going to be and so on, it is crazy. And it scares me. But I keep reminding myself that, no, there's a path, there's a craft to this. Nothing is impossible. There's just a craft to it. So yeah, that's essentially how I tell myself this. We'll see.
Yeah, it's really inspiring, and I know that our listeners will really appreciate hearing what you just said, because it's real, right? It's every day. You're in the trenches. You're building something new. You don't always know what the path will be, but you have to trust in it, and you just have to take those steps one after the other. I think about it as like you're maybe on a pier, like a pier going out into the ocean, like one of the piers, but you have to get across the ocean, and you don't know how you're going to get there. The pier ends at the end.
Yeah.
Start walking on the pier, and as you take those steps, the pier keeps getting longer, and you're able to.
That's such a beautiful analogy. Oh my gosh, that's literally how I feel.
Mhm.
That's really how I feel.
Yeah, and the fact that you believe in yourself, that is the core of it, because no one's really going to believe in you like you believe in yourself. I mean, yes, of course, you're going to get the investors and the customers and the people that are around you, but at the end of the day, you can only rely on yourself. And so you have to have that core belief, that confidence, that feeling of I can do it. Even if you have to lie. You have to wake up in that morning, put that lipstick on, get on with the day, and say, I'm going to just give it a go.
Yeah.
And that kind of spirit just really emanates from you. It's really nice to see. It's really nice to see. Well, while we're on the philosophical creative journey here for a minute, like I do with all my guests, I ask them to pick a song from my Gilli Moon catalog to see if anything resonated with you that might spark some conversation. Is there a song that you think you found?
So I found many, and I don't know if it was was it The Light?
The Light, yes.
I think it was The Light for me, because I kept listening to it. Because I woke up in the morning and I was like, I cannot pick a song. So actually, I was in the bathroom when I was playing it again and again and again. I think it was The Light. So I think that's the one for me.
All right. Well, we're going to play The Light now for our listeners. This is The Light by my music stage name, Gilli Moon. Here we go.
It's a lot. I'm barely hanging on like a thread. I forget where I'm from, but I keep going for the sakes of you. I couldn't imagine a life without you. My eyes close in toil and tear. I watch you sleep and I sit near. I fear this is all it's to be. I created you, but have I lost me? My light inside it hides in fright. I pine to thrive, to find the light. The light, it burns, the light so bright. You guide me towards the flaming light. The light, 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 the light. It's too much. I barely make it through. The day is long and temper's true, but I couldn't bear to exist alone. You are my light, yet true my stone. You give me all, you suck me dry, but then you reignite the fire, the black, the white, the gray between.
Yeah. The light, the light, the light, the light. I'm so glad you chose this song. It's actually kind of interesting. I originally wrote this about the birth of my twins. It was at the time I was a really big entrepreneur, running my own record company and coaching business, and I was just exhausted having twins, and so it was like this conflict of being a mother and then being like an artist and an entrepreneur, and but when I when I heard you pick this song, it also conjures up what we're passionate about, like pursuing that passion, and it can really be hard. It's really hard on us, but if you follow the light, if you keep the light in front of you, you can overcome so many things. So I think it's kind of fitting for our discussion today.
So glad to hear it. I loved it. And Gilli, you're just such a powerhouse. So I really want to learn more about this, and we can have this conversation separately, because I studied music for 10 years.
Oh, amazing.
And my husband's a musician. So I met him at a gig. So yeah, and he still performs with like all over the city and so on. We've never gone. I think I want for him to hear this, because I keep telling him, like, you should finish your compositions. You should see what it looks like when you produce it and have something that you can, reference back. So you're such an inspiration. Thank you for sharing this.
Thank you. Yeah, I've ended up. I have 8 albums out, and I feel like I've lived a dual life. I've got this Gilli Moon moniker, which is my artist life. I've toured the world, and that's why I came to Los Angeles in the beginning. But then like you, I'm a techie. I'm a geek at heart, and I was on the internet before anyone really was on there. I was building artists and launching artists. Funny, branding and launching artists on the internet, like you're doing with coaches. Now, I had a huge platform back then, and I still do have a songwriters platform called Songs Alive. But I moved into the tech world and just loved it so much, tech and media, and built a career that way. But never lost sight of the artistry. So, and that's where I feel creativity. So now, I see creativity as being able to solve huge business problems, even when I am at work, so to speak, in corporate world. I bring my creative right brain thinking to solving problems, and not just the left brain. And I really foster that with people in business, to think outside the box, to come up with different strategies, like warrior guerrilla strategies on how to build things, launch things, get things out. And so I'm in my more mature years now, growing into where I'm going as a proper grown up. I really have noticed that I'm bringing it all together, and I'm doing that through this new startup of my own called TheCrea8ve. I've had different models of it, but I'm actually bringing it all together, and I'm bringing my brand together, and it's kind of scary actually to bring it together.
Isn't that amazing? I feel like that's the most satisfying job you can have, is when you can be your full self, right?
Yes. I think authenticity is the key. I've had a hard time at that, because I go in, I'm managing 150 people in a 3,000 person organization, and they all want you to be the grown up in the room and the leader, and then you want to go and perform on your piano at night. Like, is that a life? I guess it is, right? You can have both, right?
That is amazing. But that is so amazing to hear. I mean, when someone thinks of you like SVP at Herman, I mean, it's that in itself is a full box. Like, right. How do you do more than that?
That's right. Well, that's why I'm asking you the same question. How do you do it all?
I mean, you're a mom, you're a wife, you're a daughter, you're an artist. There's so much that people actually don't get to see, and I'm so glad that you're getting to be all of that, Gilli, and I get to also be a part of your journey. So thank you.
Oh, it's a pleasure, and thank you for really creating opportunity for people around you, both men and women, you've really, that's the hallmark of success, is when you can get to a place, and I'm saying this out of experience, but also watching and observing, is when you can build something you're passionate about, like Kriya, but you are serving and helping others, that you've got a mission. When you have a mission that is beyond yourself, I'm getting goosebumps, as I said, and I'm speaking about you. It can only be successful. It can only do great things. So I know you're going to continue to do amazing things, Deb.
Thank you, Gilli. It means a lot coming from you. So thank you so much.
Yeah, amazing. So as we wrap this up, this wonderful conversation with Deb Dutta from Kriya today, Deb, is there anything that you would love to impart to my listeners that you feel are like a golden nugget from you that we haven't covered yet, or you just want to, share from your heart now that we've had this big conversation?
Gilli, I think both you and I can attest to this. I think the biggest thing that comes in the way of us women is not feeling like the world is, or we are ready for the world. I think a lot of our biggest obstacles are sometimes within us. And yes, it's probably true that we may have to work harder than some others to get where, to a destination, but you have to start. If you don't start, you're always going to be left behind. So it sounds cliche, it sounds generic, but it is so true. It is just so true. So if any of your listeners are, wherever they're coming from, whether they're coming because they're attracted to your music, to your professional success, or to your coaching practice, whatever it is that you're holding back on, please get started. Nothing happens overnight, right? It takes years to get to where you want to get to. And even then you're like, oh, shoot, I still have so much longer to go. So please, that's the one thing I would recommend anybody that's listening in.
Just get started. Don't hold back. Don't be afraid. Wonderful, wonderful messages. And you're an example and a light. The light.
The light.
For us to be inspired by. So thank you, Deb. What are you going to do this weekend? Anything cool?
Actually, yeah, it's my husband's birthday, and terrible me, we did nothing last year because the business was just so new. I felt so guilty. This year, we're actually going camping, and it's no devices. You cook your own everything. It's going to be it's 2 hours north of where we live. So I'm actually looking forward to it because it's not just a disconnect for him, it's actual disconnect for me, which I'm looking forward to. So it's going to be fun.
So wonderful. Well, I hope you have fun camping, and we'll definitely see you online, you and I, and I'm sure that a lot of folks will have some great good feelings and inspiration, and hopefully a kick in the pants to go do what they want to do based on this podcast today. So thank you so much, Deb. It was great to see you today.
Great chatting with you, Gilli. Thank you.
Yeah. Come and join us at TheCrea8ve.com, TheCrea8ve.com, or find us on social. Or find me, Gilli Moon. See you soon.